Or clients use our products for laundry money?
Paying with the unauthorized money.
Or the product itself can be considered as an asset itself. So
Yes.
Right.
Why? Because it's high value
yes, because it's,
and it can be resold, and this is how basically money laundering. Exactly. So it's not very concerning for you guys because you don't deal with cash. Okay, so clients are over the phone and they're gonna pay either by card or bank transfer, so the risk is relatively low. But you need to know what this concept is, just in case sometimes I refuse something and I tell you why. Okay. So basically, to put it in a very simple terms, it's dirty money and transforming it to clean money. Okay. Now, terrorism financing is something that can be used through bank transfer as well. Sometimes it's linked to money laundering and sometimes it's not. But usually they can transfer funds to charities or through companies that probably don't exist. They're called shell companies, so companies that don't have an actual physical address in order to finance terrorism. We all know what terrorism is, right? Okay. Okay, do you know what sanctions are?
yes.
Okay. So, this is also you're not very involved in this because locally in KSA and UAE, because you'll be handling these two countries, the screening is only required when although it's not linked to money laundering, it's only required when it's a cash transaction, 55K and above in UAE and 50K and above in KSA. Okay, so you won't be doing a lot of screening. However, I will be doing screening when it's a corporate purchase. And we have Montblanc here, so you have a lot of corporate purchases. So whenever the client is an entity or tells you that he wants to purchase under an entity name, especially when it's a bulk purchase as well, you will have to collect certain documents and contact me.
You do the compliance check?
I do the check.
Okay.
Yes. So you don't need to worry. You don't need to worry. I will do the checks. I will approve. It's under my responsibility, but you will have to ask the client for ownership documents, license. We're going to detail them now. Why we do this? Because we need to validate who the owners are. I need to check that the owners are not sanctioned as well. Okay? So just for you to know and you're aware, the lists that we screen against are the UAE local list for UAE, and we screen against all the international sanctions. So US, UK, Swiss. Why? Because we are an international company and we have presence in these countries, so we need to follow their regulations. Ultimate beneficial owner is the actual owner of a company when it's a company, which means a person who exerts control over that company. So sometimes you might have complex structure, which means a company owned by company owned by company. This is a complicated structure. So they create this complicated structure on purpose to hide who the ultimate beneficial owner is, which means the ultimate person who is benefiting from the transaction. That's why when we're dealing with companies, we need to collect documents. We need to make sure that we screen all directors, all owners. We know who they are, because if there's a complex structure, we don't deal with the transaction. So let's say you have a case where an entity is owned by an entity. You can see that, let's say, on the trade license. I will check it. You don't need to check it. In that case, we're going to need to ask for the documents of the owning entity as well. Until all of them. If we get more than 3, it's complex. We don't continue.
Okay.
It's complicated.
It takes a very long time.
It takes a very long time, and there's a reason for the complicated structure. So sometimes we need to assess the risk, and if it's suspicious, we don't have to go ahead.
The first question is.
Sorry?
They made it on purpose.
Yes, they made it on purpose. Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like, why in the beginning there is 3 entities that are under each other? So
I will give you
there
now
must be
a
reason
real
behind it.
example that happened with one of the brands, and I'll let you understand how a real life experience can be. Okay, thank you, Regina. So, legal entity guidelines for KSA. Normally, if the amount paid is 50K Saudi Riyal and above, of course, we don't accept cash from legal entities, although you guys won't deal with cash, but just so you are aware, we don't accept cash from legal entities. The documents required to be presented are normally, and they're generally the same documents, okay? You always need a license, whatever the type of license is, commercial, trade, professional, they would know what the license is. Commercial register extract, and this is in the cases where the license doesn't show ownership structure. So sometimes, for example, in the UAE, in the license itself, you have the list of the managers and the owners. So for me, that's enough. Okay, I am able to identify who they are. In certain countries, the license doesn't show who the owners are. It only shows who the managers are. And the manager is not necessarily, and it's not the, okay? A manager, it means a person who is authorized to buy in the name of the entity. He's the CEO, he's the CFO, regardless, okay? The owner, it has to be an ownership a percentage as well. Yani this is the owner, he owns 50%, he owns 60%, he owns 70%, okay? And usually, they have bigger control over the entity when they own 25% of the shares and above, by law, okay? And of course, we ask for the IDs of the owners to identify who they are and for us to be able to screen them. Sometimes you might have common names, Muhammad, Ali, you might have a million results. So we need the IDs to identify extra information like date of birth, nationality, in order to be able to distinguish whether this person is the right one or not. In UAE, it's the same, but the amount is 55k AED. And technically, generally, whether the entity is incorporated in the UAE or abroad, the documents are the same. So if it's not a license, it's a certificate of incorporation, which means when the entity was incorporated, the type of entity, the full name of entity. Share register, in some countries we have the register online, so we can research and we can find the details of the entity and who the owners are. Online, it's public. In some countries it's not, so we ask for a share register. Okay, technically you don't need to give the exact naming of the document to the client. You can tell the client we need the license, okay, or any ownership document that you have for the entity, any legal document, and we need the ownership structure. So whether he wants to provide me with the share register that has the ownership structure, or whether he wants to provide me with something called articles of association, where we have the details of the ownership structure, that's up to him. But what we need to tell him is that we need an official document, not a letter that he writes me and tells me I am the owner, okay? It's an official document issued by an authority, by a government authority, okay? Where we see who the owners are and where we see the legal structure and it's of course licensed and that's authorized and valid.
Why it's important to know who's the owner?
If the owner is sanctioned, you're dealing with a sanctioned person and you're actually benefiting indirectly the sanctioned person. He's the one buying ultimately. He is buying through the entity, but he's the one buying. Okay? Questions so far? Okay. So again, the main, just in a nutshell, the main purpose is to ensure that the company is licensed, valid, active, and to identify its activity and to identify the ownership structure. Okay? Through official documents showing who the owners are and the percentage ownership of each. Reasons: legal requirement. It's required by law to do this, by the way. Okay? The UBO stands for Ultimate Beneficial Owner, might be sanctioned. The UBO, to answer your question, might be a politically exposed person. Do you know what politically exposed means?
Political figure.
It's not necessarily a political figure. It could be a political figure, and it could be a spouse of a politician, associate of a politician. They can be used as front by the politician. Okay?
But what is the UBO?
The ultimate beneficial owner, the person who ultimately owns the entity. It could be more than one person, by the way. It doesn't have to be one. Okay? But the idea is that we need to identify who they are. If the owner is a PEP, is a politically exposed person, then the entity is considered to be a PEP. So you need to assess the risks here, because by law it requires higher levels of approval when you're dealing with a politician. Okay? So, speaking of politically exposed persons, by definition, it refers to people who hold high public office. You don't need to be able to identify them. This is just for info. When I do the screening, I am able to know whether this person is a PEP or not from the screening results. Okay? In these high-risk situations, enhanced diligence is required. Enhanced diligence means like a higher level of investigation or research, just to make sure that, I don't know, let's say it's a politician who had a bribery case recently, or who stole money from the government and he has a court case against him. It's different than when we're dealing with a normal politician who there's nothing, although they're all risky.
Yeah. Okay, a question here. So you're doing this just for the new clients, not the clients you have already with you.
For retail clients, we're already doing this. So now we're adding this to CRC clients, phone sales. Why? Because it's higher risk with phone sales. You don't see the client in front of you, and he can tell you anything. He can tell you, I'm the owner of this company. How would you know?
My point is, if we have a client profile already, okay, and he is verified and he's a good person, and he,
Law is transactional.
okay,
So even now at retail level, when the client comes to the boutique, and I already know everything about him, and I already have screened them for, by the way, screening, just for you guys to know as well, is constantly changing. So the client can come to you today and he's not sanctioned, then can come to you 2 months later and he's sanctioned.
that's what I'm saying.
So that's why the checks are transactional, every transaction. Okay. Plus, for entities, sometimes the ownership structure might change.
For then, yes, it's like
Owners as well.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about
Owners
individuals.
change.
Yeah. Yeah. So they might know, let's say that we checked this time, and they might change the person next time and anticipate that we're not going to do our checks again. And it could be someone else the next time. So we mostly know all of the tricks. Okay. Now, so just so you are aware, whenever you have a legal entity transaction that is above 55K or above 50K in KSA or UAE, you're going to need to collect these documents and share a direct email with me. I will do the checks, confirm everything, and I'll approve it or reject it depending on the results. Okay? You will get the details about who I am, my contact details, and everything. In terms of suspicious activity, so this is very important because we also have requirements in all of the countries to report to the government if we detect something that is suspicious and not right. Okay? These are general signs of suspicious behavior or activity. It doesn't mean that it's 100% suspicious. But you might have, these are considered red flags. So when you see more than one red flag, you might need to raise it to us and we investigate. Okay?
So
What
you're taking action,
I
not
take
just
action.
rejecting the
I mean, it depends on the red flag. So if the red flag is huge, we can reject and report. If it's a minor red flag, like, I don't know, for example, if he told you, I don't want to provide you documents, we reject. If he told you, look, I am not the owner, but can you tell the compliance department that I'm the owner? If he asks you to hide something, change something, this is highly suspicious. This is a definite no. So it depends. Concealing, conspiring, all of this is definitely rejected. So it depends. Whenever you feel that something is fishy or wrong or not right, or let's say the client tells you different stories every time, or and we've had this
You are
case
taking a legal action, so
against the
if you
client.
already if you already have a transaction and you have to approve or reject, so and you are going to reject, so do you have any major case so you have to take a legal action?
No, legal action if he did some crime. What we are required to do is, if there's something suspicious, first, if we don't like it, we reject it. We have the right to reject it. Second, we report to the government. We don't take legal action. The government takes legal action.
Yes, I'm asking if you are flagging that to the government.
Yes. If there are cases that are really obvious, yes, we flag them to the government. It's our responsibility to flag them to the government. But you don't tell the client that you're flagging to the
Of
government.
course. Hello, I'm calling police right now.
I'm worried that.
So
you
even
might
if you know,
say,
let's say,
rejected.
even if you know, let's say that there's an investigation and I'm investigating, you don't tell the client. Okay? This is called tipping the customer off, and this is against the law. So don't do it. So let's say the client asks to split payments if they know, for example, that there's a certain threshold. Let's say they detect that you ask documents when it's 50K and above, and then they ask you, okay, so let me split the payment, for example. This is suspicious. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
Sometimes the clients might make themselves suspicious. Specifically split payment, some clients has like a threshold for bank transfer.
Yes. Yeah,
So
this is
if
why
I
I
say-
said it could be something
Yeah.
suspicious, but it's not alone enough reason
Yeah.
that there's something suspicious going on.
So-
There might be more than one red flag, and then you realize, okay, look, this client is trying something.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that every request is something suspicious or needs to be reported.
Yeah, that's right.
So split payments can be considered as a minor red flag, is that correct?
Yeah, you could
Yeah,
say so.
yeah.
If it's accompanied with other issues, then
Yeah, because-
you'd be able to detect, okay, the client is trying to hide something or, but I know, yes, there are a lot of cases where they ask for split payments because they have a limit on their cards.
Yeah, yeah. So,
About cards, by the way, our colleague Kunan is gonna explain everything, so. Okay, so for example, the payee is a company, they might tell you, I wanna pay from the company, but I wanna invoice under my name. No, we only invoice under the entity that's paying. So, company paying, we invoice under company, individual paying, we invoice under individual, okay? Payment by third party, they might tell you, let me give you now, I think it's important now that I give you the example because it covers a lot of red flags and suspicious behavior. So we had a case where it was raised to me, and they said that the client is some kind of celebrity, and his assistant is buying. Okay, so his assistant is buying for him, and they requested that the delivery goes to the assistant's house or apartment or whatever. So I said no. I said first, sorry. The scenario was the assistant is buying him a gift. Okay? So in this case, it's not a gift. It's the assistant buying on behalf of the client. Okay? It's not a gift. He cannot gift him if he's the ultimate beneficial owner of the transaction. He's actually his assistant. So here it doesn't qualify as a gift. Okay? So we said, this is not a gift, this is a payment on behalf. We exceptionally authorized like a written letter issued from the client that he wants this person to buy on his behalf. But we said the delivery should not be to the assistant, it should be to the actual person. This was the first scenario, okay? The second scenario, they came back to me and they were like, yeah, but the company, now there's a company and the company wants to buy for the celebrity. The company is now gifting the celebrity.
So the scenario changed.
The scenario changed. So see, now you're gonna tell me what the red flags are. I was like, okay, I already knew that it's suspicious, but I wanted to play along. Okay? So I'm like, okay, if there's a and the person that is contacting them is actually the owner, and they gave me the name and they told me this is the owner of the company. I'm like, okay, I never rely on what they tell me. Never rely on what the client tells you. Okay? So we asked for the legal documents of the company. I'm like, okay, she's actually the owner, so she doesn't mind providing us with the documents. So we got the license, and we got the license was a free zone entity in the UAE. A free zone entity in the UAE has a different kind of license, and you don't get the list of the owners on the license itself. So you need to ask for another document called the incumbency letter, it was on one of the slides, which lists the owners. So I told them I need the incumbency letter. We got the incumbency letter, the owner is a company. Okay? I'm like, okay, I will need the legal documents of this company as well. We asked for the legal documents of this company, it turned out to be another free zone entity in Abu Dhabi. So I asked for another incumbency letter because I need to know who the owners are. The owner was another entity, a third one.
It's too much already.
First, the scenario changed more than once. I actually summarized the situation now. Second, in this case, if you saw, there's a third party involvement first. So they were like,
Yeah.
the assistant is buying a gift for the client and the client is a celebrity. Why would the assistant, if my assistant is my assistant, why would he buy me a gift? Why would it be labeled as a gift? It doesn't make sense.
It's my
He
money.
would be buying for me on my behalf because let's say I'm not there, I authorized him, I sent him, this can happen. But it's not a gift, it's not a gift in this case. Then the scenario changed to the company buying for the celebrity. Then apparently the client wasn't the celebrity at all, then the client became the company itself. And the owner is, the supposed owner is the beneficial owner. And then we realized that this person is not even the owner, And then we realized that there are two entities who are owners. So this is where you would automatically know that first, the story is changing more than once. Second, they're trying to lead us somehow somewhere else, and when we're asking for more info, they're changing. So this is a kind of an example of where it's important to collect legal documents and check legally who the owners are, not rely on what they tell us. And this is an example of how they try to change the scenario to check whether will it go now? Yes. Will it be okay now, or are they gonna ask more questions? Okay. So there's no one size fits all in terms of red flags you would be able to detect. If you feel something is wrong and you're not able to be 100% sure, just raise it. Okay? Requests an unusual degree of secrecy, reluctant to provide information, refuses to identify a legitimate source of funds, or provides false, misleading info, like in this case they changed the scenario more than once. Or sometimes they might provide you with an ID and it turns out to be fake. We've had a lot of cases where we got fake passports. That's why we do screenings and checks on certain tools to make sure that they're not fake. Especially that they think that it's remote sales, so they can provide you with anything and no one's gonna check. So in case of suspicion, we're gonna provide you with these slides, and we're gonna provide you with the red flags list just so you are aware of what is generally considered as a red flag. Again, it doesn't mean that this person is a criminal. It just gives you an idea of if it's a mix of red flags, it could be, okay? And again, it's important not to tip the customer off. So if you know that we are investigating something, we don't let the customer know, okay? So this is my name. My name is Tanya Al-Awad. I'm the Regional Compliance Officer. This is my email. I think when we circulate these slides, you would know, you would have contact details more. And you can just directly raise an email to me regardless if you're reporting something suspicious or if you need my approval on a corporate transaction. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you, Owen.
Nice to meet you.
Any questions?
I have one. So the individuals are allowed to buy and sell from each other's. So if I have
Clarify.
if I have a bracelet, okay, and store wanna buy it from me, so I can do that, or
You mean the clients between each other, or the client is contacting you to do something like this?